Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Turnaround Marriage Live.
Hey, everybody.
We are going to be talking tonight about the second shift that Christian couples can make to completely turn their marriage around, recover intimacy, and fall back in love again. Yesterday, we talked about the first shift that you can make, which is to embrace stress. And if you're curious what we mean by that, you can check out the other video.
Very different than what you're expecting. You need to check it out if you missed it. Yep.
Very different. But the second shift that we have noticed that Christian couples make when they get a marriage turnaround, it is to fight hard. And we're going to talk about what that means in just a second.
Yeah, exactly. If you are joining us on Facebook, definitely make sure that you're part of our Facebook group, and make sure you're also liking our Turnaround Marriage coaching page, and make sure you're part of both of those. You can like, and then also just join our group. We've got about 1,600 people in there. So just if you search Turnaround Marriage, you're going to find both of those. Also, if you're on YouTube, definitely check that out if you're not there yet, and like and subscribe and share those videos. We'd very much appreciate that. And we know that you're out there and you're hearing what we just said. Fight hard. Like what? What are you talking about? Like, Scott, Rachel, we do plenty of fighting. And that's what you're probably thinking. In fact, we've been fighting for years. What do you mean fight hard? Well, guys, we want to encourage you to hang with us, because what we're talking about, I think, will resonate with a lot of Christian couples out there that are realizing that they've been fighting the wrong enemy.
The wrong enemy. That's it, Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, every Christian knows that we are in a fight. We are in a battle, right? But so often when we get into a marriage situation, and especially once we've been married for a few years and life starts to happen, suddenly the enemy of our soul can trick us into thinking that our true enemy is the one sitting next to us.
It happens a lot of times.
Yeah. Yep. It is like this. It's like literally Satan's oldest trick is like to trick you into blaming somebody else for your own fault and for your own sin. And in fact, what he's doing is getting you to think that instead of him being the enemy, it's him being the enemy or her being the enemy. And we see it over and over and over again. And he dupes Christians and uses the decoy of your spouse to whisper lies into your ear and to say, they are the problem. They are the problem. They are your enemy. They're not going to be there for you.
Absolutely.
We see it over and over again.
We do. And guys, I want you to hear me out here, because this is really important. This is where a lot of people miss the boat. Everybody can acknowledge, oh yeah, the bad things that happen, and he comes to trick us, and he tries to cheat, make us cheat and cheat in our hearts and minds. And like, he does all that stuff. Like, people even say to me, like, the devil got in my husband or my wife. Right. We understand that. We understand he uses a lot of deceit, and he's the father of lies. And because he is the father of lies, he also uses good things to lie to us, to distract us, to get our attention off of the prize, our attention off of the goal. And, it can be busyness. It can be good things like activities. It can be your work. It could be even your finances or your children. Even they're all very good things. And he will use these good things sometimes to overwhelm us, to overload us, or even to get us on the edge. And when we're in that place, do we not see, my friends, that the evil one is using the good things to distract us and deceive us?
Yeah, it's so true, Scott, because he uses not only the evil things, he'll use porn, and he'll use temptation, and he'll use the sins and all those things that naturally tempt us as sinners. But then like you said, he'll use those good things to stress us out, to overwhelm our schedule, to make us feel like, oh my gosh, we have no time to sit down and talk. We have no time. We're going to run to here, and we got kids going every direction, and we're just scrambling, and we have no extra money, and we have no extra time, and we have no extra margin in our emotional reserve. And we just, and Satan is just like, you have no time for the most important things. Yeah. Even church activities can become a thing that's like, it can overwhelm your schedule. And if you're so focused on that and you forget about your first love, the first earthly love, I should say, of the marital relationship, it can be really detrimental. And guys, we're here to tell you that even since the Garden of Eden, Satan has been trying to get you to fight the wrong enemy and to blame each other and to point to the other person to say, you're the problem, right? It's you.
Yeah, it's true.
You're the problem. We have all these problems. You're the reason we have all these problems in our marriage.
Yeah, and it's true. And like, you just take Adam, like when he was caught red-handed, God, comes to him and he says, the woman you gave me, God, she's the one that made me do it, and partake of the fruit, right? Like he's already blame shifting. And from the very beginning, he's pointing at his wife as the problem. When he was the one, they both sinned against God, but he also sinned against God and was not leading his wife the way he should have. And so, guys, we want to say in 20 years plus of working with couples, we have seen that couples that take extreme ownership of their sins, of their brokenness, of their mistakes, and they stop blame shifting, those are the ones that not only last, but those are the ones that are really successful. And so, when we can realize that the problem isn't your spouse, if you can realize the problem isn't the circumstances even, and remember who the true enemy is, that it's the evil one, then everything can really, really change, can't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's one of the things we teach our private clients is extreme ownership, really 100% owning your side of the fault in the marriage, right? Because none of us are without sin. And when we this makes us think of a couple we worked with last year, Jim and Christine. What an amazing couple.
Yeah, they're awesome.
They're so cool. But when they came to us, they were really in a bad place. They were really fighting hard the wrong enemy, right? They had fallen for the lie that the other person was their enemy, and they were both struggling with just a lot of anger and frustration in the marriage. They were actually apartment shopping, and they were like, I don't want to divorce you, but I don't want to live like this, Right. It got to the point where the fights had just escalated, and it was just ugly. And both of them were ashamed of how they fought. And when we showed them how they could fight hard against the real enemy of their soul, and they could really do battle with the enemy, the evil one, and really become a team, everything started to shift for them.
Yeah,
right?
That's so true.
Yeah. And what was so cool to watch was that the playfulness started coming back. The teamwork started coming back, and all of a sudden the joy came back. And I remember Christine saying, my gosh, like it's fun to be with Jim. Like now we're working together at home. They weren't before. And she said, I don't know how we would have ever worked together at home. We just couldn't even get along in the evenings when we both got home from work. But now we get to work together from home, and it's fun. And we're looking forward to the time we do get to be together. They're playing games, or they're taking trips, and they're just enjoying the good life. And in fact, sometimes he can be found chasing her around the house and tickling them. They act like they're on their honeymoon again. Yeah. It's been so fun to watch them fight the real enemy and learn that the other person is not their enemy, that they had been duped, and they were really able to just have an amazing turnaround.
It's so true. And I would say now you're right. Like playfulness is what defines them.
Yeah.
And because I think the secret for them was really when they identified that the problem wasn't their spouse, but it was the sin nature within them and the evil one. And they began to take real ownership, extreme ownership of their own sin, and began to really fight the enemy. That was really the turning point for them.
Yeah.
They had believed the other person was the problem, but it was a real turning point for them when they began to really identify their own failings, their own mistakes, and then to really own that. And when you can, even if you're only, and I don't mean just speaking to them in specifically, but in any case, even if you were only 20% to blame for the problems in your marriage, if you were to own that with such extreme ownership, it could really shift things in your marriage, because the real enemy is not your spouse, it's the evil one. And so, guys, maybe you're out there tonight and you're hearing this about Jim and Christine, and you're hearing us talking about it, and you're thinking, okay, this sounds good, but we actually work together from home. Like the COVID era is many things really hard for us. Or maybe you're out there and you're like you don't understand how crazy our schedule is and all the things that are going on. And maybe that your crazy schedule is filled with all kinds of good things that you're doing together and as a family. And you're so focused on some of these other things that you're not able to be reminded of what is the prize. And maybe you guys are fighting a lot. Maybe you are just frustrated. Whatever the circumstance, whatever you're facing, we're here to tell you when you can really begin to own your stuff and point and fight against the true enemy, things can really begin to shift. But it can sometimes be hard when you can't see the forest for the trees.
Absolutely. Yeah. And maybe the frustration and the anger and the fighting have been going on for so long, for years or even decades, and you're like, how in the world do we turn this around? How do we get out of this? Maybe for a long time you haven't felt like you're a team. You felt like you're battling each other and you're never on the same page, or rarely on the same page. And maybe it's started to turn into a critical spirit, right? Where you're noticing all of the faults in your spouse. You can't even, like, how did I fall in love with this person? They just drive me nuts. They're so selfish. And you have a list in your mind, or maybe you even say those things out loud. And that criticism has become contempt, which is like this disdain for your spouse, this disgust. And it's like, you're almost repulsed because you're just like, how could you? And you're looking at the other person and forgetting to look right here in the mirror at your own faults and failures, right? And we're here to tell you that if you're getting to the point of contempt, it's extremely, extremely dangerous place to be. That is literally the critical tipping point for many, many couples that it ends up leading into divorce when you're at that contempt phase. But maybe you're just at the phase where you're just stonewalling and you're just like, you know what? We're not talking about that. And you're going to shut down and keep them out and not really open up. And so, guys, if that's you, we want to encourage you to remember to fight hard. Fight the real enemy of your soul. Stop fighting each other as if your spouse is the enemy, because if you're believing that lie, you've been duped. You've been duped by the enemy. And maybe it feels like they are your enemy. And maybe you really do need some help to untangle this. Maybe this has been going on for a long time, and we want to help you.
Yeah, that's so good. And so, yeah, like what I would just say, when you can begin to really team up with a real sense of purpose and a real sense of connectedness, that you realize neither one of you have arrived. Neither one of you are sinless. You're far from it. And then begin to attack the enemy head on. Things can really, really change. It can be the difference between night and day. And I'd say even for us, that was a lot of the problem. Like, we were so blind to some of our own sin that we were just pointing and seeing the sin in each other. And we began to really realize, wow, I've got more than enough blame myself, and really could point at the true enemy. Everything changed when you teamed up. Like, he wants you to be fighting against each other. He wants your children to see that too. But when you really start warring in the spiritual realm, when you really start leaning on each other for support, and in the spiritual and in the physical realm, like, it can be such a game changer as well. And then right along with that is remembering who that true enemy is. And in other words, attacking him, but realizing that the enemy is not the way your wife has spoken to you, nor is the enemy the COVID era, nor is it the sickness that you're facing, nor is it the kids and the busy schedule or the stress or your work, whatever you're facing. That is not the true enemy. In other words, so many people, just like what we talked about last night, so many people are hoping to get through the stress, as if you get through the stress and everything's going to be okay. The stress isn't the problem. It's how we're handling it. And are we looking to the real root of the problem? So making sure that we remember that true enemy. And then, guys, really, we fight hard against those things that are pulling you apart. And that's what it looks like to fight the enemy. To really be united in that fight against all things. One of the things that we will say to each other, it's you and I against the world. There's nothing that's going to come between us. It doesn't matter what's going on. We're going to be strong together. And that's one of the things we teach our clients as well. You and me against the world. And everything can change when you do it that way.
Yeah. Absolutely. So yeah, understanding the enemy, understanding his tactics, seeing through his lies, which often sound like truth. There's a half truth to it, right?
Yep.
Because remember in the garden, he was like, oh, did she really say you can't eat of it or touch it and you'll die? God never said touch it. But he added that because he's just like, oh, look at your God. He's such a restrictive, no fun kind of guy, and that's the kind of thing. So you've got to be able to see through that stuff, and you've got to be able to fight hard as a team, fighting the true enemy. Listen, your testimony is at stake. The gospel is at stake, right? And you need to fight for your marriage.
Right.
Maybe your spouse has already left. Maybe you're already finding yourself separated. You can be the one to fight hard against the enemy of your soul, the one who's coming against your family. Christian couples have targets on their back, okay? Especially Christian husbands. They have the biggest target on their back because Satan knows if he can take them out, he can take the whole family out. And so, guys, you are probably going to be tempted more than your wives. You are going to be lured away easier. You have got to fight hard. Fight hard. And if you need help, that's why we offer the free breakthrough call, because we want to help you to fight hard in your marriage, to fight for your marriage, not in your marriage.
Right.
And so if you're looking for help, you can go to turnaroundmarriage.com/call. And we would love to get on that breakthrough call with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Pick a time, fill out that short questionnaire, and guys, we'll talk about what's not working and maybe what does it look like in terms of some of the fighting going on in your home right now, and then talk about what you guys hope and dream it can be. And if we're a good fit, guys, we'll absolutely make that clear. Talk about what that investment would look like in building your marriage, and if there's something better out there, we're going to point you in that direction. Either way, we're going to get you guys in a place where you are going to be in a much different place in how you view things in the context of your marriage. So absolutely book that call at turnaroundmarriage.com/call. And so tomorrow we'll be back with our third shift, and we have a commitment for the next 3 days to have the rest of our 5 shifts. If in the meantime you're interested in seeing the full masterclass, you can just go to turnaroundmarriage.com/class and pick a time that works for you to watch that too. Anyways, until next time, we will see you guys then.
Bye-bye.